Effective atmospheric dread maps the precise, step-by-step psychological unraveling of a protagonist. By restricting a character's agency, a writer can build a sense of terror that feels inescapable. Michael Eugene Cantrall's poem House Sitting on a Dark Night utilizes a first-person internal monologue to execute this. This unbroken monologue traps the reader within the narrator's immediate, unfiltered consciousness. It creates a sensory restriction where we only experience what the narrator perceives, mimicking the claustrophobia of the estate. To deconstruct how this architecture of paranoia is built, we must first hear the poem in its entirety to establish the narrator's baseline psychological state. Something feels odd about this particular estate. It's not like the others. What am I sensing? They may not want me to know. This old wall phone. The lines have long been cut. I could swear I heard it. Nah, no way. Wow, where'd the sun go? Not good. I'll have to stay the night. Too late to go. Let's see. When I drove in, the main gate automatically closed behind me, so it should be locked. Maybe something bad happened on the grounds and they didn't want to spook me. And what about that wishful thinking comment? Why'd he say that? What he said about the piano playing at night is so weird. Not to worry if I should hear a few of the keys late at night. Probably just a couple of broken keys. But why only at night? Yep, I can just barely see it, but it does look like the main entrance gate's locked. I need to go get that gate code out of the car. Okay, he said if you stay overnight, lock yourself in and don't forget to leave food out for the cat, but never let it inside. Feed the cat. Yeah, their assistant said to be careful, the cat has a bad attitude. Be careful of a cat? A cat. What did I get myself into? This place is way too remote. What I need is someone to talk to, a reality check. I'm feeling like I'm sinking. Geez, this freaking hallway is freaking black. Wait, what the frack was that? Oh, must have been me, my shadow. Nope, it's too dark for shadows. Something down there moved. Need to stay focused and calm. My brain's starting to make stuff up like that other time. Crud. When I asked him if there were any, he said not to worry. Ghosts are mainly wishful thinking. Some poet once penned he didn't believe in them because he'd seen far too many. Wait, that's not all he said. He said something like, if you can see them, then maybe you're already on the other side and don't know it yet. A creepy little thing to say. Thank you. The other side. Smother side. All that when he said it, he was winking. Yikes, it's getting dark fast. Now what the... Crap, the lights don't work. Let's see, the breaker panel. Down in the cellar. And that stuff they said about the garden where nothing will grow? Something feels odd about this particular estate. What am I sensing? They may not want you to know. Through this restrictive text, the reader moves from objective observation into a state of psychological dread. The text's first structural move is the creation of a physical vacuum. By the second stanza, the narrator is stripped of all communication. The automatically closed gate and the severed phone lines remove the narrator's initial safety anchors, ensuring they are physically cut off from the outside world. The author includes the specific detail of the gate code being left in the car. This places freedom within sight, yet renders it functionally impossible to reach in the dark. As these logistical options vanish, the narrator is forced to rely on their own cognitive defenses, which are already beginning to fail. Revisions from the January 16, 2026 manuscript formalized this threat. The instruction to feed the cat was originally attributed to a neighbor, but changed to their assistant. This shift replaces domestic warmth with bureaucratic coldness, suggesting the danger is a managed fact, an institutional directive. This establishes the cat as a liminal guard. It is a boundary sentinel that the narrator must placate, marking the line between the relative safety of the house and the darkness outside. By making the pet a managed part of the estate's operations, the revision further narrows the narrator's agency. The introduction of the piano playing at night functions as a sensory betrayal. It subverts the safety of the interior, suggesting the house has a voice that only speaks when the narrator is vulnerable. The narrator experiences cognitive dissonance, attempting to rationalize that broken keys only malfunction in the dark, a logic that their own senses cannot support. Revisions from December 17, 2025, insert colloquialisms like friggin' and frack into the monologue. This ruptures the formal structure of the narrator's thoughts, sharpening the virility, making their eventual collapse into fear more impactful as their professional decorum erodes. The narrative pivots toward a metaphysical threat by quoting a poet who didn't believe in ghosts because he had seen far too many. This specific sentiment was recorded by Samuel Taylor Coleridge in his private journal in 1805. This leads to a linguistic fracture. The narrator's reference to the other side slips into the smother side, a psychological breakthrough where hidden fears surface in speech. This linguistic slip reveals the narrator's subconscious fear of being suffocated or overwhelmed by the estate's unseen history. These subversions create an environment where it is unclear if the threat is a literal haunting or the narrator's own mind fracturing under pressure. The narrative structure reaches its climax when the estate's electrical lights fail. The narrator is forced to descend to the cellar to find the breaker panel. This logistical need creates a final physical escalation of dread. This movement represents a subterranean descent, a move away from the known world and into a state of total vulnerability. The cellar acts as the figurative underworld of the estate. It is the threshold where the narrator's logic finally fails. The recurring motif of the missing sun serves as the thematic removal of the light of reason, signaling that the narrator has moved beyond the reach of rational thought. For students of literature, the poem demonstrates that effective psychological horror relies on restraint. It allows silence and dead phone lines to perform the heavy lifting. By analyzing the architectural pacing and intentional uncertainty of the text, we see how poetry constructs inescapable psychological spaces.